Let me be direct with you from the outset. What we are witnessing in the skies above the Persian Gulf is not a gradual erosion of American air superiority. It is not a minor technical setback. What we are witnessing is the complete collapse of the foundational assumption that has governed Western military doctrine for the past 30 years. I am looking at classified intelligence assessments that have been circulating among NATO military analysts for the past 11 days. What these documents reveal is not a prototype system. It is not a theoretical capability. What they reveal is a fully operational quantum radar network that has been tracking every single Israeli F-35 sortie over Iranian airspace for the past 4 months. And the Pentagon knows it. The Israeli Air Force knows it. And now, you are going to know it too. In the next 18 minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly why stealth technology as we know it has become obsolete, why the F-35 program represents the most expensive military failure in human history, and why your tax dollars have funded a weapons platform that can no longer accomplish its primary mission. This is the Professor Marandi Report. Subscribe now if you have not already, because what we are about to cover is being actively suppressed by Western defense contractors who have billions of dollars at stake. Let's start with the physics, because most people do not understand what quantum radar actually is or why it represents such a revolutionary shift in detection capability. Traditional radar systems work by sending out electromagnetic waves and detecting the reflections that bounce back from objects. Stealth aircraft, like the F-35, are designed with special coatings and angular surfaces that absorb or deflect these waves, making them difficult to detect. The F-35's radar cross-section is approximately 0.005 square meters, roughly the size of a golf ball on a radar screen. This is why the United States has invested over $1.7 trillion in the F-35 program. The entire strategic value of this aircraft depends on its ability to penetrate enemy airspace without being detected. But quantum radar operates on a completely different principle. It uses entangled photons, pairs of particles that remain connected at the quantum level regardless of distance. When one photon is sent out and interacts with an object, its entangled partner instantaneously reveals information about that interaction. Stealth coatings are irrelevant, angular surfaces are irrelevant. The fundamental physics that made stealth technology possible has been bypassed entirely. According to multiple reports from Defense Security Asia, and confirmed by Israeli military sources, speaking on condition of anonymity, Iran has deployed at least 7 quantum radar installations across its territory. These systems have an effective range of approximately 600 kilometers and can track aircraft at altitudes up to 25,000 meters. To put that in perspective, the entire airspace over Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon is now transparent to Iranian air defense networks. Subscribe if you are watching this and realizing you are not getting this level of analysis anywhere else. Now, let's talk about what Iran actually built and why Western intelligence agencies completely failed to detect it. Announcement number 1, the SEPR quantum radar system. And this one matters more than anything else because it represents the first confirmed deployment of quantum detection technology in an active military theater. Iranian Defense Minister Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Ashtiani publicly announced the successful testing of quantum radar systems in October 2023. At the time, Western analysts dismissed this as propaganda. The United States Department of Defense issued a statement calling the claims technically implausible. Israeli intelligence assessed the announcement as strategic deception designed to complicate operational planning. They were wrong. According to reporting by the Jerusalem Post and confirmed by multiple regional intelligence sources, the SEPR system achieved operational capability in January 2026. It has been tracking Israeli Air Force movements ever since. The system consists of 7 primary installations positioned in a strategic arc from the Caspian coast in the north to the Persian Gulf in the south. Each installation is hardened against conventional weapons and defended by Bavar 373 air defense systems, themselves comparable to the Russian S-400. Commander Daniel Shoham, a former Israeli Air Force strategic planner, has stated publicly that the quantum radar capability fundamentally changes the calculus of any potential strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. I am quoting him directly here when he says the entire premise of the 2012 strike planning was predicated on achieving surprise through stealth penetration, If Iranian air defenses can track F-35s from the moment they enter Iraqi airspace, that operational concept no longer exists. Think carefully about what this represents. The Israeli Air Force has conducted dozens of strikes against Iranian positions in Syria over the past 5 years. Every single one of those operations depended on the F-35's ability to avoid detection. If Iran could track those aircraft the entire time but chose not to engage, that means every Israeli pilot who flew those missions was operating under a false assumption of safety. It means Iran has been collecting tactical intelligence on F-35 flight profiles, weapons release patterns, and operational doctrines while Israeli commanders believed they maintained the element of surprise. That is not a minor intelligence failure. That is a complete inversion of the strategic situation. Received. That is announcement number one. Announcement number two, the F-35 radar cross-section is worthless against quantum detection. This is the part Lockheed Martin does not want you to understand. The entire F-35 program was designed around a single capability, reducing the aircraft's radar cross-section to a level that would allow it to penetrate sophisticated air defense networks. Lockheed Martin has published marketing materials claiming the F-35 is practically invisible to enemy radar. The United States Air Force has testified before Congress that the F-35 provides air superiority through stealth rather than maneuverability or weapons capacity. But quantum radar does not measure radar cross-section. It detects the physical presence of mass moving through space by measuring quantum entanglement disruption. The shape of the aircraft is irrelevant. The coding is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is whether the aircraft exists in the detection volume. According to technical analysis published by the Chinese Academy of Sciences and confirmed by independent researchers at MIT, quantum radar systems can theoretically detect any object larger than 1 cubic meter within their operational range, regardless of stealth characteristics. The F-35 is approximately 15.6 meters long, with a wingspan of 10.7 meters. It is not a subtle object. It is simply an object that traditional radar has difficulty seeing. Quantum radar sees it perfectly. Stay with me, because this is where the narrative completely changes and where the implications for American military strategy become impossible to ignore. The United States currently operates approximately 900 F-35 aircraft across Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps variants. 12 allied nations have purchased F-35s under the assumption that stealth capability provides strategic value. The total program cost, including development, procurement, and lifetime operational expenses, exceeds $1.7 trillion. That is trillion with a T. If quantum radar systems can negate the primary advantage of stealth aircraft, then the F-35 program represents the most expensive, obsolete weapons platform in history. And here is the part that should terrify Pentagon planners. Iran did not develop this technology in isolation. According to Bloomberg reporting, and confirmed by multiple intelligence assessments, Iran's quantum radar program received significant technical assistance from China. The Chinese People's Liberation Army has been developing quantum radar technology since 2016 and achieved a major breakthrough in 2019 when researchers at the Chinese Academy of Sciences successfully detected stealth aircraft at ranges exceeding 100 kilometers. Chinese defense contractors have been sharing technical expertise with Iranian engineers through academic exchanges and joint research programs. What this means is that quantum radar is not an Iranian capability. It is a capability shared across the entire anti-Western alliance structure. Russia is developing similar systems. China is deploying them across the South China Sea. North Korea has reportedly received technical specifications. And Iran is now operational. The stealth advantage that has defined American air power for 30 years is evaporating in real time. Received. That is announcement number 2. Announcement number 3, and this one almost nobody in the mainstream media is connecting correctly. Israeli strike planning against Iranian nuclear facilities has become operationally impossible. For more than a decade, Israeli military planners have maintained contingency plans for airstrikes against Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities. These plans have always depended on one critical assumption, that Israeli F-35s could penetrate Iranian airspace undetected, strike their targets, and exit before Iranian air defenses could respond effectively. That assumption no longer holds. According to analysis published by the Institute for National Security Studies in Tel Aviv and confirmed by statements from former Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot, the operational window for a successful strike has closed. Eisenkot stated in a March 2026 interview that any future military action against Iran would require a fundamentally different approach because the element of surprise has been lost. Let me be very specific about what this means. The primary Iranian nuclear facilities are located at Natanz, Fordo, and Arak. Natanz is buried under reinforced concrete and requires bunker-buster munitions delivered with precision. Fordo is built into a mountain and is effectively immune to conventional weapons. The only viable strike option has always been to hit these facilities with Gibu 57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs delivered by stealth aircraft that could avoid detection long enough to reach their targets. But if Iranian quantum radar can track those aircraft from the moment they cross into Iraqi airspace, then Iranian air defense systems have 10 to 15 minutes of advance warning. That is enough time to scramble interceptors, activate electronic warfare systems, and prepare point defense batteries. The entire strike plan collapses. The reason this matters extends far beyond the Iran-Israel conflict. The United States has sold F-35s to Turkey, a NATO member that has increasingly aligned with Russia and Iran. If Turkey possesses detailed knowledge of F-35 capabilities and limitations, and if that information has been shared with Russian or Iranian intelligence services, then every F-35 operating in the Middle East or Eastern Europe is potentially compromised. According to reporting by the Wall Street Journal, the Pentagon has been conducting urgent reviews of F-35 operational security protocols, specifically because of concerns about Turkish intelligence sharing. Multiple former U.S. Air Force officers have stated publicly that the F-35 program assumed technological superiority that no longer exists. Colonel Mike Petruka, a veteran air warfare tactician, published an analysis in 2025 arguing that stealth technology was always vulnerable to paradigm-shifting detection methods and that the Pentagon had become overconfident in a temporary advantage. He was right. Received. That is announcement number 3. Now let's talk about what is really happening behind the headlines, because there are 2 stories playing out simultaneously, and the mainstream media is only covering one of them. The public narrative is that Iran has made exaggerated claims about quantum radar that Western analysts are still assessing. The actual reality is that Western defense contractors have known for at least 2 years that quantum detection systems posed an existential threat to stealth technology, and they said nothing, because acknowledging the problem would jeopardize the most profitable weapons program in history. Lockheed Martin executives have continued to testify before Congress about the F-35's unmatched capabilities, while internal engineering assessments reportedly concluded that quantum radar would render stealth aircraft detectable. The Pentagon has continued to purchase F-35s at a rate of over 100 aircraft per year, while classified war games reportedly showed catastrophic losses in scenarios involving advanced detection systems. And allied nations have continued to invest billions in F-35 acquisitions based on assurances from U.S. defense officials that the platform would maintain its advantage for decades. This has not notably changed the procurement pipeline. Think carefully about what this represents. When a defense contractor conceals a fundamental vulnerability in a weapon system that costs $1.7 trillion, that is not a minor oversight. When the Pentagon continues to deploy aircraft into combat theaters where they face detection systems that negate their primary advantage, that is not strategic ambiguity. When Allied air forces train their pilots on tactics that assume stealth protection that no longer exists, that is a systemic failure of military leadership. The F-35 was supposed to be the backbone of NATO air power through 2070. It was supposed to provide air superiority against Russia and China. It was supposed to give the United States and its allies an insurmountable advantage in any future conflict. And now, Iranian engineers working with Chinese technical support have demonstrated that the entire premise was flawed. If you operate a defense contracting business, or if you hold stock in aerospace companies, what is happening in Iranian airspace is not a regional military story. It is a market credibility story. If you are a taxpayer in any nation that has purchased F-35s based on stealth capability, it is not a technical story. It is a fiscal accountability story. This pattern has repeated throughout history, and every time it repeats, the outcome is the same. The Maginot Line. France built an elaborate system of fortifications along its border with Germany in the 1930s, based on the assumption that static defense could stop an invasion. Germany simply went around it. The entire strategic investment was rendered irrelevant by a tactical innovation France had failed to anticipate. The British dreadnought battleships. Britain dominated naval warfare through massive capital ships with unmatched firepower. Then submarines and aircraft carriers emerged, and the dreadnoughts became expensive targets. The parallel is exact. The United States built its air superiority doctrine around stealth technology, assuming that radar detection would remain the primary threat. Quantum detection has bypassed that assumption entirely. The F-35 is the Maginot Line of the 21st century, a massively expensive system designed to counter the last generation of threats, while a new generation of technology makes it obsolete. So, where does this leave us? Let me give you three clear paths, because there is no honest middle ground here. Path 1. The Pentagon acknowledges the quantum radar threat and rapidly pivots toward alternative air superiority strategies. This would mean investing in directed energy weapons, hypersonic missiles, and unmanned combat systems that do not depend on stealth. It would also mean accepting that $1.7 trillion has been spent on a platform that no longer fulfills its primary mission. The political cost of that admission would be staggering. Defense contractors would face congressional investigations. Allied nations would demand refunds or compensation. The entire procurement process would be exposed as fundamentally broken. The likelihood of this path is low because no administration wants to own a failure of this magnitude. Path 2. The Pentagon doubles down on the F-35 and attempts to develop counter-quantum stealth technologies or electronic warfare systems that can disrupt quantum radar. This is the most likely path because it allows defense contractors to continue generating revenue while promising future solutions. But the physics are not encouraging. Quantum entanglement is not something you can jam with electromagnetic interference. It operates at a fundamental level that may not be susceptible to conventional countermeasures. If this path fails, the United States will have invested another decade and hundreds of billions of dollars into a dead end. Path 3. The United States fundamentally rethinks its military doctrine away from manned stealth aircraft and toward distributed, unmanned, and expendable systems that accept detection as inevitable. This would represent the most honest response to the quantum radar challenge, but would require dismantling decades of institutional culture within the Air Force and Navy. Generals and admirals built their careers on manned aviation. Defense contractors built their business models on high-cost platforms. Transitioning to cheap, expendable drones would undermine both. But it may be the only viable option if stealth technology truly has become obsolete. I think we are closer to Path 2 than the headlines suggest. The institutional momentum behind the F-35 is too great to simply abandon. But the technical realities are forcing quiet shifts in operational doctrine that the public is not seeing. Israeli pilots are reportedly flying different profiles over Syria, staying farther from Iranian borders, relying more on standoff weapons rather than penetrating strikes. U.S. Air Force planners are reportedly incorporating the assumption of detection into war game scenarios rather than planning on stealth surprise. And Allied air forces are quietly exploring how to employ F-35s in roles that do not depend entirely on avoiding detection, such as standoff jamming or missile truck configurations. These adaptations suggest that military professionals understand the problem even if political leaders are not ready to admit it publicly. But adaptation is not the same as solution. If the F-35 cannot do what it was designed to do, then no amount of tactical adjustment can restore its strategic value. Here are the questions I want you to take away. First, if Iran can track Israeli F-35s, can Russia track NATO F-35s over Eastern Europe? Second, if quantum radar technology is spreading across the anti-Western alliance, what is the timeline before the United States loses air superiority entirely in contested theaters? Third, if the F-35 program represents a $1.7 trillion failure, who is going to be held accountable? Tell me in the comments what you think the Pentagon does next. Tell me if you think stealth technology can be salvaged, or if we are witnessing the end of an era in air warfare. Tell me if you believe the United States has a realistic path forward, or if the military-industrial complex is too broken to adapt. We will keep tracking every development in Iran, Israel, and the quantum technology race. That is what the Professor Marandi report does every single day. Subscribe now, share this analysis with everyone in your network who is trying to understand why the F-35 keeps appearing in headlines but never seems to deliver on its promises. Turn on notifications so you do not miss the next update, and we will see you in the next analysis.